being here today. You know, in my short time here in Congress, I've recognized that the national debt is the biggest issue we must face. So much that I carry the national debt to show people when I'm out in my district, and people are appalled. You know, Mr. Walker, I did read your statement that you submitted, and you're right. Colorado did do something because we saw it come in 1992. The Colorado Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which allows, because we didn't trust government, we didn't trust that they were going to use our money correctly, we instilled a cap, and I think this is a good example of what, when there's a will, there's a way. You can actually do it. But I sit here and I feel that both sides of the aisle seem to be a little tone deaf. They're not really focusing on the issue. They keep pointing fingers back and forth about taxes, about what we could do. Here's the facts that I think everybody needs to know, and specifically the American people. The national debt equates to 107, if you were gonna pay it, it would cost a person $107,594. Per household, it would be $272,546, and per child, it would be $498,233 per child. The federal government borrows $76,032 per second, as you can see by my debt clock. And so the United States gross debt currently exceed World War II levels. And so you're right. You know, in the last 40 years, we've only passed 4 budgets, right? And it's interesting because you're supposed to have the House and the Senate take care of the purse and take care of the American people. And yet we pass these omnibus bills and we pass continued resolutions, which I am not a strong supporter of. But this is what gives us in the situations that we're in. You know, we talk about fraud, waste, and abuse programs that are no longer authorized, right? The zombie programs, over 1,200 programs that have been no longer authorized or allowed should be funded, and yet we're funding them to the tune of $516 billion every single year. I'm at a loss as to why Congress cannot basically do what its job is, and that is do a budget, do it correctly. You know, and I think it's important for us to recognize that, you know, while everybody in Congress would like to go home for the holidays because everybody wants to spend Christmas, I try to remind my colleagues that we have men and women in uniform that took the same oath of office that we did, and they're not going to be home with their families because their duty comes first to their nation. We have a duty, we have a responsibility. We should not be worried about going home. We should not be worried about a holiday in the calendar. We have a duty and responsibility for the American people to make sure that we maintain the good balance in the budget. I think the people deserve problem solvers, not problem observers. And unfortunately, I see that in Congress today. But I have hope. I have hope that the 119th Congress will step up. They will step up to the plate. They will get a bloody nose. They will take a busted lip. They will get a black eye because they're doing it for the right reasons. We must stand in the gap. You know, fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government is something that is rampant. As a former director of the United States Small Business Administration in Colorado, I can assure you there is a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. And like you, Mr. Walker, it took a lot of work to make sure that that office was efficient and it wasn't wasting money. But it can be done. If we have strong people, it can be done. Now, my question, Mr. Elmdorf, full disclosure, I don't have a lot of faith in the CBO these days because they came and they weren't able to answer my questions as it pertains to, but as a former director of CBO, what is the cost of illegal immigration to the American taxpayer?
Well, Congressman, thank you for the questions. Let me say first, I'm sorry you don't have confidence in the CBO. I believe that you should, and I would be happy to explain.
I would love that conversation.
Offline, so please let us do that. The cost to the American taxpayer of immigration, legal and illegal, can be seen both in the federal budget and in state and local budgets, and then in the economy more generally. What CBO has shown in a recent analysis is that the surge of immigration over the last few years is making the federal budget stronger over the coming decade because the immigrants are paying taxes in many cases and not receiving benefits in most cases.
Well, let me
not a full assessment, and CBO doesn't mean it to be a full assessment of the overall impact. It's just the direct impact.
Well, let me give you some different numbers. The Center for Immigration Study puts the cost per taxpayer at $68,000 over the lifetime of a legal immigrant. The center also states that 4 million children of illegal immigrants cost taxpayers $68 billion in costs for public education. The Federation of American Immigration Reform puts a conservative estimate of the cumulative cost of illegal immigration to be $150 billion. Wouldn't you agree that it would be important for CBO to present those numbers in front of the Budget Committee?
I don't want to prescribe to my successor and his colleagues. As you know, CBO focuses on the federal budget. They have expertise at that. Some of the key numbers you mentioned, the extra cost of public education, borne by state and local governments. So I would hope the CBO could provide information about that, but I don't know, as an ex-member, what the state of their knowledge and analysis of the—
Well, unfortunately, I can tell you that their numbers for the last 7 years have been off, and that's where I lose confidence.